deal, what a deal. Hey guys, it's Jax.
And I've got a problem.
Oh, good morning, you guys. The dawn has broken. I have a little more juice in my goose. You know, I'm an upbeat guy, and I'm a rocker and a roller, a mover and a shaker and a bicker. Any other little rhymes you can come up with? I will tell you what, by the end of yesterday, in the wee hours of this morning, I was shot, man. You remember me explaining what it is to be shot? It's a trucking term where you've just done all you can do. That's the end of the day. You've done your best. And it doesn't always come in terms of driving, you know, like hauling livestock through the night. Sometimes it's just, you had a big day, you did a lot of work, and you just shot. So, that was me. So, of course, this video is a new episode, but it's coming directly on the heels of the episode where we hauled the canola screenings. You know, I did the big round out to Virginia and Delaware and back to Utah and all that. And then finished that off with canola screenings back to the ranch. You know, and it was so much work to get those out. At the same time all that was going on, I was moving out of my truck to get Cody moved in so he could take it and start his official run as an employee. So it was just crazy. And then to top it all off, I had to get in this truck. Notice I'm in a different truck, right? I had to get in this truck and get the flatbed hooked up, and I had to change a few tires before I could leave. I finally got on the road super late. Had to drive over to South Dakota. And anyway, I'm just about to, you guys remember from my last trip, do you remember the episode where I took all my kids to, where did we go? California, in the Kenworth, for like a week? I'm back at Boom Concrete. I'm just about to Boom Concrete, where we're gonna load another vaulted, they call them vaulted toilets, which is the scientific term. The layman's term, outhouses, concrete outhouses for the campgrounds, right? When you go camping, remember, and they have like the permanent concrete outhouses. That's what we're loading up. So I finished that hopper deal, got Cody gone, swipped and swapped, got Blue 3, and buzzed over here to Newell, to Boom Concrete. Dylan and we got to load this thing on. He made me drive like a maniac to get here, and I'm going to let him explain why he needed me here first thing in the morning. You'll hear that in a minute. But, oh man, I was just beat yesterday. I told Haley before I left home, I said, oh, it's so hard. I just finished that last episode. And it's a lot of work, you guys. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of work filming YouTube episodes, especially when you're filming by yourself. When you got to set the cameras up. You got to put the GoPro where it needs to be. And to finish that last episode on just with everything going on, and then realize that I need to immediately start another episode so I can show you this truck. And then, of course, the destination's another thing you're going to want to see, because we're going to the south rim of the Grand Canyon with this toilet. So, oh, that's why I'm going to take a break. Oh, okay, first time out with this truck. Whoops, that was the horn. I went through a bunch of rain last night, and my horn, when I turn the steering wheel, my little meat horn, you know, the little electric horn, beeps when you hit a certain spot in your turn. Okay, anyway, I got sidetracked, but I was telling Haley it's gonna be hard to just be all, woo, let's go trucking again, as far as making the next video for you guys. And she goes, you know, it's probably okay to just be real about it. Like, it's okay for everyone to know that you're just you're whooped, you're shot, you're tired, and it's hard to, you know, muster up the energy and the mental side of cracking out another episode on the heels of this last one. But so this is me being honest with you. I'm tired, and I'm really pushing to get this video started. I'll be in much better shape once we get this toilet going, and I'll get a big old nice rest here today and tonight. We'll be in better shape, but that's just me being honest at the behest of my lovely wife. So okay, well, I'm just pulling in, and I'm gonna jump out, and I'm gonna let Dylan explain to you why I had to use all of my hours to drive through the night to get here to load this toilet. All right, you guys, so I made it in. Doesn't he look older and wiser? Do you remember? He's a little taller, a little stronger, a little better looking.
A little bit. A lot better looking.
Yeah. So I told them all that I wanted you to tell them why I had to drive all night long.
Well, you see,
to get here. What did you have going on that was so important?
See, there's golf. I got a golf in Rapid, and it's an hour away, and
he's got a tea time this morning to go golfing.
9:50.
So let it never be said that I'm not like a nice guy that's willing
You're a trooper, Jackson.
Yeah, to help out my friends, you know?
Anything.
We're gonna load this thing up and get on the road. So here's what we got. This is basically the vault that goes under the ground. Think of it like a septic tank, right? So that goes on the back. Dillyweed is bringing over the beast. That'll sit in the middle of the trailer. So that's the body, obviously. And then we'll get a roof, one of those roofs, and it'll go on the other deal. Look at that crane. I think he's a beast. Woo! I hate to admit it to him, but he's actually getting pretty good at this. Go back around. Just straight back. Okay. Yep. What do you guys think? Look pretty square? I think we're good. This is always the tricky part with these giant forks. We don't want to catch the toilet. Beautiful. Sometimes those forks will hook this and pull a chunk off, and then Troy has to patch it or backfill it with dirt, either way, but yeah. On to the next one. With the little baby forklift. Baby forklift. This one's a little more tricky because you got to line the edge of those clean out doors. Come forward. Now crank it sharp the other way. Back up a little. Little more. Little more. Okay, now straighten out. Back just a little. You can go back a little more. Right there. Uh-oh. It looks pretty clear. Either someone was very hydrated or that's just water. That better just be rainwater. So next up, over there, he's gonna grab that roof cap, and it'll set on these styrofoam blocks. We leave a little space here for the forks. You'll be able to see the forks will fit in there. You just set it right down on that puppy. We're getting a different one, my bad. We're getting the twin stack Mac with the bunk in the back. Boys, bring it on down, come on. guys. Whoa. Yeah. There's a hair. Never a shortage of protein. Did you guys notice that thing too? Yeah. I feel like a rabbit on my seatbelt. I like it. I'll get buckled up here in a minute. Anyway, I just got the business from the Highway Patrol. He's just doing his job as a Highway Patrol. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, So, I'll explain the story. You'll laugh about it. You can have a laugh at my expense. Ended up not really being an expense, thankfully. But, so check it out. So there's a port of entry here, and there's heavy road construction going on where they actually move you across to, this is another one of our nation's wonderful bridges. They move you across to the other side of the freeway. So when you're driving through the construction zone, there's actually no signs that say port of entry, trucks must stop, open, close. They didn't bother to put signs up through this construction, which is long-term construction. So I'm going through the construction. There's no signage in my road. In my roadway, there's no signage, right? Sure, there's signs and stuff on the other side of the freeway that's all tore up, but as any good trucker knows, when you're in a busy 2-lane construction zone, are you supposed to be looking all about and around at your windows and wandering, or should you be focusing on the heavy freeway traffic that is neck down to 2 lanes, one each direction, trying not to hit the cones and trying not to fall off the side of the road? I'm not watching for the sign that's over in a tore up side of freeway. You guys want me to watch for that? You make the effort to put a sign there in my lane, okay? There's a little something for you. You want me to stop at your scale? You put a sign up that tells me to stop there. Don't expect me to be wandering off 300 yards across the other side of the freeway over there. Not happening. So anyway, I go on by, and a little while down the road, I noticed the Highway Patrol. And I did notice after I went by the scale, I passed the Highway Patrolman right there. He was giving me the eye. So we get down the freeway a little ways. Well, he whipped around, and he comes on, and he pulls me over. He says, "Oh, Jack, it's time to shut this thing down." So he comes up, and he's like, "Hey, I pulled you over because you didn't have signs on your truck." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah? Is that why?" Anyway, I had made these little signs. Right? I made these little signs to put in my window. Well, you remember what I told you earlier in this episode about how the day was yesterday? Just a brutal day. So I have my signs on my seat. I didn't tape them up in the window, which I've since done, obviously. So he's like, "That's why I pulled you over." But come to think of it, I passed you in a weird spot out there, didn't I? And I knew where he was going with that. I was like, "Yeah. Did you stop at the port? Did you see me stop at the port, officer?" "No." It's like, well, I'll leave you to your own conclusions. Well, you can't just go by the port. I said, "Hey, you guys didn't put any signs up? You don't put an open sign or a sign that says truckers look across the freeway to the other side through the construction zone and see if the scale's open or not?" I'm not watching for that. I guarantee tons of guys go by there. Anyway, so then he starts going through it. "Let me see your logbooks, and let me see this, and let me see that." And I'm all square. I'm legal. I've got insurance for this truck. It's all there. But in my haste to get on the road, I did not bring my insurance card with me. It's sitting at home. And I got a new one that I've never encountered. He wrote me a warning for not having proof of cargo insurance on my person. I was like, that's a new one for me. Maybe not for you guys, but all my years of trucking, law enforcement's never asked me for proof of cargo. Of course, your customers do all the time, but law enforcement never has. Well, of course, I have an email copy of it or whatever, so I finally show him that. Anyways, long story short, he's like, "Let's go back to the port because you don't have your truck licensed, quite properly. It's licensed properly, I just didn't have permits to be in Wyoming." There, I said it. So he goes, "We got to go back to the scale." So I got to go down the freeway, turn around, go back to the scale. Probably cost me $20 in fuel. Right? So anyway, I get to the scale. They don't even weigh me. person in the scale apparently has no clue what's even going on with me. Highway patrolman meets me out in the parking lot and starts giving me more of the biz. I gotta have proof of these insurances. So I call home and I get copies sent out and we get it squared away. Still really weird about the cargo insurance thing. Maybe it's a Wyoming rule, I don't know. Obviously we all have it, carry it, but I've just never been asked by law enforcement. Anyway. So then he goes, and to be frank with you, your logbook is a mess. And I'm like, my logbook is like incredibly simple. It's literally, I drove here, went to bed, got up, we loaded this morning, here we are. And he's like, no, like look here. He didn't like that I didn't put a pre-trip before I left home. And I was like, my truck was in the shop. Like it came out, it's kind of automatically pre-tripped. Well, that's the spirit of the law, right? So the spirit of the law is this truck is rolling. The letter of the law says you need to put on your form that you did an inspection. Okay. That's the letter of the law states that. The spirit of the law is this truck just came out of the shop. I was, had the trailer in the shop putting finishing touches on it yesterday. It's all ready to roll. Anyway, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's frustrating to have that brought up when you're like, here was an interesting one. He said, where's your fuel stops? I said, I haven't had any. Just fueled up at home. Well, you got to put that. I said, just hypothetically here, officer. I said, if I fueled this truck 4 days ago at home, you want me to log that? Yeah. I'm like, and this is the ranch. We use this for ranch stuff, use it for road stuff. Okay, I just wanted to ask. Then he gets into the form of my logbook. Because this is where the real mess is, son. This is where the real mess is, son. He goes, you didn't even put your VIN number in the form for your truck on your logbook. I'm like, the VIN number of my truck? Yeah, it's supposed to be right here on this form, and it's not here. I'm like, okay. Pretty sure me and every other trucker that's ever done paper logs has never, ever put your VIN number of your semi on the form of your logbook. Have any of you ever done that? Well, I was giving you a warning for that. I'm like, ugh. And I can't really say anything because he's got me just in a weird position where I'm like, it's kind of these gray areas. And I need to get going. It's been an hour and a half at this point, and I've burned all this fuel, and I'm getting behind. So I don't like this because whoever has the most information always comes out on top of these deals. And I've found that a lot of times, I love you law enforcement that follow along, and I hope that you do this properly. But a lot of law enforcement officials don't know truck rules. I'm just saying, and truckers have dealt with it. But we're in a spot where we're kind of have to, you can't really put your foot down too hard because he could dig in and say, well, I'm just putting you on a service van, or, well, I'm going to give you a $400 fine for going by the scale, even though it was in a construction zone. You're going to have to go fight it if you want to change it. I just can't risk that. So you got to sit there and go, okay, yeah, oh, well, okay. Well, I didn't realize I needed my VIN number in my logbook for my truck every day to put in there. Okay, well, that's good to know for the future. Well, I'm learning a lot. And he goes, and look at this one. I know this is getting to be a long monologue, but this was all very interesting to me. Look at this one, he says. Look at, you got 0 miles for today. So the way it goes is at the end of the day, you have to put down how many miles you traveled that day. My day's not even close to over, so I don't have anything there. You gotta have miles here. And I'm like, it's kind of an ongoing thing. Yeah, I understand, but you gotta put your miles. You should have however many miles you've driven today needs to be here. I'm like, yeah. Oh, and of course I can't say anything. I just have to go, oh, yeah, okay, so when I stop here, I should have looked at my odometer and said I've gone 112 miles. And then when I stop to fuel up this afternoon, I need to change 112 miles to 416. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. And inside I'm just dying. I'm like, no! You've been around e-logs for way too long. Paper logs were never intended for you to have to put your miles down several times throughout the course of the day. That is straight up false. but you can't say anything. You're stuck there. And so this is what I mean when, you know, if you're gonna say that, you gotta know, like, well, that's paper log. E-logs, electronic logs, just automatically keep a scroller of your miles for the day. Paper logs aren't required. There's a little bit different rules. They don't just translate straight across. Anyways, in the end, he was getting anxious to go write some more tickets, and he said that. He goes, I've been here long enough. You've been here long enough. Here's a bunch of warnings. All these warnings, you know. You didn't have a sign on your truck. I'm like, well, it's there. Yeah, but anyway, you know the deal. Ultimately, I should have been better about it, but I was just, you know, hustling and going and moving and shaking, and it was a day yesterday. Anyway, so, and I didn't dare tell him about that it was a day, because he would try to say, well, that's actually, you're supposed to log that. No, I'm not, because that is exempt farm work, okay, that I was doing yesterday. So all that was exempt. But I can't trust that he's going to believe that. So I can't say anything about yesterday. You just smile and nod and compliment his mustache. So then it all ends up, and the best thing of it all was, he goes, all right, well, I'm done with it. You can go into the scale now and take care of your business in there. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Well, this is where it's going to really get bad. So I go into the scale house, and the gal's like, well, how's it going? And I'm like, well, it's getting better all the time. Okay, well, what can I do for you? And I'm like, well, apparently she doesn't know anything about all of my travails. Said I need a fuel permit and I need a trip permit to travel through the fine state of Wyoming. Sure enough, that'll be $55. Thank you very much. I got my permits and I left. All that rigmarole, $55. And that's fine, because technically, I'll admit, technically you're supposed to have permits, even though it's just a racket. I won't bother to explain why fuel permits are a racket, but it's a racket. I'm not like a conspiracy guy, trust me, I promise, but truckers having to buy fuel permits is a racket. Because I will be buying fuel in Wyoming today. And so by buying fuel in Wyoming, I'm paying Wyoming tax. But if you're not registered with the National Tax Program for trucks, then you have to buy a fuel permit. So I bought a permit and I'm going to buy Wyoming fuel. That's called double taxation, which equals racket. So it's a racket. It is. I mean, it's straight up. It is. It's not an opinion. It's factual. I'm paying double taxes for fuel in Wyoming today. But eventually, this truck, I'll have it set up in the tax system and all that jazz. But so far, so good. So far, so good. I'll tell you a thing about the truck. So here's the girl. I did my fuel mileage. I drove 62 miles an hour yesterday coming over. A little bit about this truck. It's a 1999 International Cabover. 9800 is the model. And I bought it not because it's a cool Cabover, it's a unique Cabover. It's not one that you look at and go, that thing is bad to the bone. It's one that you look at and go, that is one of the craziest things I've seen. So they did what exactly? And I'll show you. I'm not going to show you now because it's a little bit of a mess in here from me getting everything moved in a hurry and getting inspected just now. But anyway, this truck has a lot of really cool attributes that I'll share with you throughout the course of this episode. But the root of this truck is that it's the last year that International, I believe, some of you truck super officials may challenge me on that, but I think 99 was the last year in the US that International made trucks. So one of the last ones you could possibly get a hold of. It's a one owner, bought it from the original owner. Crazy, right? And it has a red top Cummins N14, which means that we can go down to St. George and visit my buddy Jared down there at PDI and do some fun things with this truck to make it into kind of a sleeper. By sleeper, I mean a truck that you look at it and kind of get the giggles because you're like, what is that thing? But that same truck can be putting some unbelievable horsepower to the ground. The wheelbase on this truck, as you've seen from the pictures, is like 6 inches long. It's so short. Cool thing about short wheelbase trucks is they lose no power from the engine to the back wheels. I mean, they lose a little bit, but not much. Nothing like the big long trucks. Those big long trucks lose like lots of horsepower, like probably 100, 125 horsepower. It just depends how long your truck is. The longer it is and the more U-joints that there are on the driveline, the less power you lose, or the less power you have, rather. So anyway, a little bit about this truck, but I drove it 62 miles an hour. It settles in in 12th gear, so to speak. It's a 13 speed. And in 12th gear, you can do 62 miles an hour, just a tick under 1600 RPMs, okay? And that's about 62 miles an hour. I drove that all night long. Or not all night, but in my hours I ran yesterday, sorry. And I got 9.4 miles to the gallon. And that was empty, just pulling an empty flatbed. But I got 9.4 mpg. So now I've got a load on, going through these Wyoming hills, but I'm trying to drive responsibly, and that's part of why I bought this truck. It was the truck that if you wanted to be in a Cabover and you wanted to still make some money and have an efficient truck, they made this truck. It's aerodynamic, it's comfortable, it's very smooth despite how short it is, and it's supposed to make some serious fuel mileage. So I don't know, we'll see. I know what I got with my Detroit and my Cascadia, pulling these toilet loads across here, and it's actually not super great because they're not very aerodynamic. The load isn't, so it drags a lot. But anyway, in the I'll tell you more about that when I fuel up, and we'll see what this thing does. But empty, I got 9.4, which is really high for an old truck, so it's really good. Anyways, that's a little bit about this truck. I'll try to keep you filled in as we go. And you guys, I apologize. You may, through the course of this episode, you may hear me repeat a few things because I forget sometimes what I've told you. So if you do hear me repeat some information, just pardon me. Let it go by the wayside. Just remember, I've been in trouble with the law. I've been all over. I'm tired, but I'm here for you. Yep. We got going. There's no cell service out here. Hasn't been for a long time. A lot of elk on the road, and somebody with flashers on. So we're just gonna holler out the window, I guess. We're like out in the mountains, so good time to check on a person, I guess. Well, I don't know. That was weird. Their pickup was running, and his flashers are on. He's sleeping, so maybe he wasn't broke down. Just decided to sleep in the full flow. I don't know. I have no idea, but always best to just check just in case when you're out like this, so because it could be me next time, hoping that somebody's stopping to give me a ride to town.